just recap a little bit about what we talked last week because this is going to be a series for the next few weeks that we're going to be talking about. And last week, I dove into gut health and the importance of gut health and what that means, why your brain and your gut need to talk and be best friends, and how really your diet affects most of your gut health. And lots of things that we can do to make our gut and our brain be best friends again. So I also introduced a what I call a protocol. It's actually developed by Dr. Stephen Cabral, and it's called the de-stress protocol. And it is one of the things that I mentioned last week that is going to keep you on the right track to optimal gut health. If you don't have any underlying issues, these steps are so simple to follow. And the acronym de-stress, it just covers diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotions, supplementation, and your success mindset. And those are really the magical steps, if you will, to gut health and to keep you healthy in a good state. And one of the reasons why we talk so much about gut health is because your gut is like your second brain. And gut health, keeping your gut in a really good, healthy state, is going to keep you healthy. It's going to keep you away from autoimmune situations. It's going to keep you away from a lot of common disease that we experience. So we're going to dive in to the diet module. And by diet, I do not mean going on a diet. We have demonized food enough. There's an insane amount of diets out there. And so what we're going to talk about is food, why it's important, why you need to eat the rainbow, and all those good things about what eating healthy really means and not to be restrictive. So we're going to just take a really quick short break, and I'm going to dive right into that module for you.
Hello? Your health is calling. Feeling bloated, low on energy, dealing with hormone imbalances? Integrative health coach Sue Kostyk is here to assist you. Reach out to Sue for practical health solutions guided by her professional training as a holistic coach. Sue specializes in identifying the underlying causes of health issues and restoring balance. Don't let your health concerns impact your well-being. Contact Sue Kostyk today at 917-362-5176 or via email at sue@symmetryhealthandwellness.com and take the first step towards a healthier, happier you.
Hello, Your Health is Calling, a new show brought to you by the Reinvented Life Network. Tune in Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You've been watching Hello, Your Health is Calling. Join me as we dive into the realms of longevity, nutrition, stress management, and toxin removal, all without the use of harsh pharmaceuticals. And now, back to the show. Okay, so let's dive in. I am going to throw out a couple of quotes to you. And the first one I'm going to talk about is from Hippocrates from way back when he talked about let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. That was a long time ago. And there wasn't any weird fad diets around then. And everybody ate all of the food that was available. They ate all of the macros. So, I said earlier, there's just an insane amount of diets. And I wish there was another word for diet, meaning just eat food, instead of, because diet culture has made the word diet so negative. Diets are not new. Back in, I don't know, like 10 AD, 1066 AD, William the Conqueror, he was so heavy that he couldn't manage getting on his horse. So he actually had an accident, fell off his horse. Everyone laughed at him. and he went on what he called the drinking man's diet. And it was like really the first recorded diet in history. And it was an alcohol diet. Well, we all are intelligent enough to know that that's probably not the best way to go. And he actually died a not very pretty death. So, um, all of these fad diets, you've got paleo, keto, vegan, low carb, high carb, low fat, high fat, there's just one for everybody. And I think that the reason why there's so many fads out there is because people are looking for answers, and they're looking for an easy way of getting healthy, of losing weight. Um, Diet culture has really demonized food. So, as early as 1555, we can see in our history that all of a sudden people started seeing that eating a simple diet was the best way to go. And in fact, gluttony was just so overbearing, and people were dying more of gluttony than they were dying of the plague, than they were dying of other diseases. And so John Hale came up with the saying that just eat a simple diet. And that's really what this first letter in the de-stress protocol is about. It's about eating all of the macros, not forfeiting any food group for another, because that's when you really start running into trouble. And it's about getting rid of that microwave mentality and really focusing on why we have protein, why we have fats, why we have carbohydrates, what they do for our body, and how it just sets us up for really, really good health when we focus on how food works with our body versus that food is our enemy, because it really is not. We in integrative health, we look at the longest living people on the planet, and I'm sure everyone has heard about the Mediterranean diet. And that's kind of, the buzzword these days is everybody's going to the Mediterranean diet. And there is something to be said for it, because when you study the longest living people, they are in what's called the blue zones, if you haven't heard that term. And the blue zones, typically people eat protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And they live an active life, and they have community. And so all those different aspects, and we're going to talk about each one of those as we start peeling away on this de-stress protocol. But the food aspect, it's really common sense eating, and knowing what fuels your body, knowing the types of foods that you need personally, knowing that your body is made to burn food for energy, and it does that during the day. So there's a lot of different aspects that go to it, and I don't want to run down too many rabbit holes today, because we certainly have enough time in the future to deep dive into some of those things. But if we take food and what we eat and how we eat it and when we eat it, that's kind of what I want to focus on, because I want to get people out of the mentality that processed food, because it's easy, is better. It does take time to prepare your own food, and for really super busy people, that tends to be one of the biggest excuses, but there's so many food services out there. So I want to just kind of take that off the plate and talk about taking the time to eat whole food versus the drive-through mentality. Because really, when we take all of the nutrients out of the foods in our ultra processed foods, you're not getting anything out of them. So that's one of the reasons why people who eat a fast food diet start to find disease happening. They start to feel more anxiety. They start to put on weight, because these ultra processed foods, you're not getting the nutrients out of them. One of the first things that I do when I work with people is we talk about what you're eating and how you're eating, and taking the time to make meals at home instead of eating out in restaurants. I talked about a anti-inflammatory diet as well. And that's a really super important thing to understand. And it takes, working with someone to understand how foods can inflame you. And, we talk about food allergies, we talk about food intolerances. And if you notice that you're eating a food and you don't feel good, then you pretty much know you have an intolerance to it. And we've really complicated things and tried to make, it really hard to eat good, balanced, nutritious meals. So let's talk about all of the different food groups. So we have your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats. And each one of these food groups has a purpose. So when you start to get rid of one for another and have too many carbohydrates, then your body doesn't have the protein to rebuild muscles and, to just help your gut stay healthy. And when you have too much protein, then you're not getting all the phytonutrients and the fiber and stuff that you would get from your fruits and vegetables. So, really knowing how to balance your plate, knowing how to eat the different types of foods and not the same foods over and over again. I have a few clients that come to me that say, I eat chicken and broccoli all day long and I can't lose weight. That's because you've developed a food sensitivity to chicken and broccoli because your body doesn't know what to do with it anymore. You don't have that variety. So we want to talk about, eating variety, changing up your lean proteins with your higher fat proteins, eating the rainbow when we're talking about fruits and vegetables. There's a lot of diets that have demonized fruits and vegetables, saying that they're too high in sugar, especially for fruit. And there's ways to get around that too. When you work with someone who understands about nutrition and about food groups, they can guide you into the different fruits that are higher in sugar or higher on that glycemic index for people who do have some blood sugar issues. So, it's not eliminating that entire food group, it's just knowing which ones are going to work for you and your body. And, we talk about food as medicine. And when you have a healthy body, you don't need the medicine. You just need to understand how your body works with the food that you're giving it. And so when we talk about ketogenic diets, I'm not demonizing it except for the fact that it's overused. And for people who, there are certain health issues that people need to have a ketogenic diet, but for 99.9% of our population, a ketogenic diet is just going to open you up to other issues later in life. And the problem that we have is that these things don't show up right away. So we go for these fad diets and we go for these, different ways of eating because we get immediate reaction to it. So, yes, you eliminate, carbs from your diet, you are going to lose weight because carbs hold water. So basically what you're doing is just losing water weight. You're not losing that fat. So, if you do any kind of injections to lose weight, yes, you're going to lose weight because you're forcing your body to do something that's kind of unnatural to it. So you're going to lose weight, but then in the long run, you're going to be back in the situation that you were in before. So our food is our main source of life. It is our source of energy. It can be a source of pleasure as well. Foodies all over the world unite. I am a foodie. I love food. And there are definitely ways that you can enjoy your food with still maintaining healthy aspects of it. But I think we've become too focused on, oh, I need it to taste really, really good, or I need it to taste really, really sweet. Otherwise, I'm not going to eat it. We kind of have gotten away from the fact that food is fuel. And that really is our number one reason for eating. It's our fuel. It's the way that our body lives. You cannot survive your life without eating food. It's a basic, but you get what I mean. And so when we start to put the enjoyment of food in front of its actual purpose, that's when we start running into the problem. And that's where we get into these ultra processed foods that have all these chemicals in it that make it taste really good, and it keeps you wanting more. The chemical reaction of a lot of these preservatives make it so that you keep craving it. So that's why the fast food industry is so popular, because they've put all of these preservatives in their food that keep you either hungry or just craving that particular flavor or sweet or what have you. So when when we eat a whole food diet and keep it simple, then our bodies are going to get what it needs. Our gut's going to be happy, and we're going to live pretty much disease free if we can maintain that. And then as we keep going through the de-stress protocol, we're going to just open up all other things that are going to help you maintain your gut health. But I touched upon food sensitivities, and that's kind of a big topic because it's not an allergy. It's a food sensitivity. So when you talk about your diet aspect of this de-stress protocol, it's learning what foods really work best for you. And a lot of times that takes working with someone who knows a lot about nutrition. And so, it's not to complicate it, but we have come to learn or be brainwashed, so to speak, that carbs are bad, protein's good, fruit is bad, vegetables good, but what we haven't learned is that you can balance all of those on your plate and be able to eat pretty much whatever you want of a whole food group and not have to worry about weight gain or anything. So let's talk about the food sensitivities a little bit. They're not an allergy. An allergy is going to show up right away. It is something that your immune system sees as an enemy, a potential threat. So it's something that you should stay away from because it could kill you, basically. But a food sensitivity is something that shows up within 24 to 72 hours of when you eat it. So a lot of times people aren't even recognizing that their discomfort 2 days later is basically because of a food that they ate. And it's a sensitivity. It's part of your digestion. So a lot of ways that these happen is because we overeat the same foods over and over again. Like I said about the chicken and broccoli example, I literally have a client who ate chicken, rice, and broccoli for 5 years and very little variety otherwise. And she started gaining weight. She started having hormone disruption because her body just created this imbalance around these foods that she was eating, because all of a sudden she didn't have the prolific gut bacteria to break down these foods anymore. One of the things that we'll dive into another time is the fact that when you eat a variety of foods, your gut has all the right bacteria and enzymes to break down those foods. So if you're not introducing a lot of different food variety, you're stuck with one type of bacteria, and that bacteria is going to overgrow, and then you're going to have leaky gut, and it's just going to run into another source of problems for you. So eating the rainbow, eating a variety, eating, if you don't want to eat animal protein, then there are a lot of plant proteins that are out there that are going to give you just the same amount of protein. But I highly, highly recommend inserting some type of animal protein into your diet. That seems to be the biggest fear of people, is that animal protein is bad for you. And I say this over and over again, God gave us everything we need. Now, quality is a completely other story. So when we don't put a quality piece of protein, or plant for that matter, into our bodies, then our body reacts to it anyway, and we all of a sudden have this toxicity too. So I can see where I'm starting to dive down some rabbit holes that I'm just going to take notes and we're going to go into in more detail. But I want to get back to the food sensitivity. So the food sensitivity, when we start to recognize that there are certain foods that we're sensitive to, I'm going to give you an example which a lot of people find very odd. I find on food sensitivity tests that a lot of my clients are sensitive to egg whites and not egg yolks because we've demonized the yolk. So everybody's removing the yolk from their diet and they're only eating the egg white. So they become very intolerant of the egg white. So then they say, oh, I can't eat eggs. But it's really the egg white that they're sensitive to. So through the process, we just eliminate that for a little while for 21 days, and then we start to slowly integrate that back in. But that's a prime example of a food sensitivity that people just don't understand, that removing the yolk that has all the nutrition and all the good cholesterol in it, we're just making our bodies intolerant to the rest of the egg. So, what happens when you start to have food sensitivity show up? You could start to have seasonal allergies. You could start to have autoimmune situations. You could start to have disrupted hormones. You can't lose weight, you can't gain weight. Both of those kind of go hand in hand. So, a food sensitivity test is highly recommended to anyone who really wants to get a handle on what foods are good for them, for their particular bio individual. Sorry, I couldn't find my word, but bio individuality, because we are all different. So, finding out what you're sensitive to is one of the places that I recommend starting. You can actually email me, Sue at symmetryhealthandwellness.com, if you are interested in a food sensitivity test, and we run those all the time. It's easy, it's at home. But, understanding how food actually is your friend and works for you and not against you is one of the most important things that you could ever grasp onto. Not being so focused on counting calories. Start focusing on what's in your food. Eat a whole food diet. Stay away from the processed foods, because we are a society that counts calories and we do not count chemicals. And I understand that people don't want to eat animal protein, so they're starting to go to these, plant-based meats, burgers, chicken strips, all these things that start out kind of as a vegetable, but then they're so highly processed and they're adding all these chemicals and all these preservatives and things to make it taste like a burger or a chicken strip. So if you're going to eat a plant, eat a plant. Don't, get caught up in this ultra processed, I don't even know the names of them anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. Um, Unbelievable burger or whatever they're selling these days. So let's stick with whole foods. Eat from the rainbow. Eat your fruit. And if you don't understand the difference between high sugar or high glycemic fruits, reach out to me. I have a list. I can send it out. If you don't know what it means to eat a low inflammatory diet, then reach out to me for that as well. You can actually grab my anti-inflammatory food list at it'saboutyourgut.com, and that is one of the first places that I have people start, because it's a whole food diet. There's no processed foods, there's no processed sugars, and it just allows your body to start to really take in those nutrients that you need. So, just to summarize, I think that the biggest takeaway, if you could take from today, is to eat whole food and eat good, fresh, organic vegetables, organic fruit, proteins that are pasture raised, fish that is wild caught, so that you have just a really good, clean piece of meat, and just eat whole foods. Don't go and get into this processed stuff that, the old adage of shop the exterior of the grocery store is very true, because in the middle is where all the processed foods live. And next week we're going to do a little bit more about whole foods, and I'll probably have a couple of gifts for you guys with recipes that you can do to make some yummy quick dinners. I know everybody is busy, they feel like they don't have time to cook, but honestly, once you get started and really start practicing cooking at home instead of dining out or going through the drive-through, it really becomes second nature. So again, let food be your medicine and let medicine be your food. The first step to a healthy lifestyle is really in your next meal. And it's just choices. And it's not something that you have to do all at once. You can take baby steps, but start with that anti-inflammatory food list. It's aboutyourgut.com. You'll get it for free. Thanks for joining me. Another great time with you guys. I appreciate everybody watching. And remember, your health is calling.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Hello, Your Health is Calling with Sue Kostyk. Remember, your health journey is ongoing, and we're here to support you every step of the way. If you have any questions, insights, or stories to share, don't hesitate to reach out. You can connect with us on social media or call in live at 888-994-4995 Studio A. Together, we're transforming lives and embracing holistic well-being. Until next time, prioritize your health and remember, your health is calling.